9th, 2019 meeting of the Utilities Committee. Madam Secretary, let the roll call show all members are present except Councilman Benny Johnson. While you don't see Mr. Dawson up the dais, he's in antechambers and should be joining us shortly. If everyone then would please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation tonight to be led by Councilman Oliver Joseph.
Bow head. Dear Lord, give the members of this board to make the right decision for the community. Dear Lord, bless all armed forces service members who are serving this country today. And dear Lord, bless this great state, great parish. And dear Lord, bless of all of us. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is the chair's addition. There are none tonight, except let me mention that our full council chair, Councilwoman Terry Castle, will be sitting in tonight. And as we know, that means she has full rights and privileges in terms of discussion, motion, and voting. We welcome her this evening. The next is the public comment period, item number 4. Anyone wishing to speak on any of our agenda items tonight? I think we have a total of numbers into 15s, not that many numbers, but please feel free to come up, fill out a speaker's card with the secretary. I'm sure she'll hand it to me, and you'll be recognized and be given your 3 minutes during the appropriate item. Item number 5 is the approval of the minutes of this committee of March the 12th, 2019. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Lawler, second by Mr. Joseph, to accept the minutes of the March 12th meeting. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, those minutes are officially approved. Item number 6 is our director's report. Tonight, Mr. Daniel will be talking to you about Community Development Block Grant update, USDA update, as well as an Astroland sewer billing. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Thank you for sitting in, Chairwoman Casso. Appreciate your attendance here.
Thank you.
I made a copy for y'all. This is the invitation to bid on the Darrow Hillaryville sewer system.
Yay.
And it's been out for a little while. I erred and I didn't put the date of this publication, but it's been out and the bids are due on, I think, the end of May here, or maybe May 7th, on Tuesday, May 7th. So, yeah, Tuesday, May 7th. So we'll be getting the bids in on May 7th, and we'll be very excited to get those. And hopefully this time they will be within the budget so that we can start construction. I do want to, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank O'Neill Parrington. He got that last little square of land that we needed to finish this project. Otherwise, we would have never got it bid out. So thank you, O'Neill. I just wanted to give you a very brief update on the USDA project. We have met with Owen and White, which are working on the water plant. I think we have a really great plan going forward there. We made a few revisions to the original scope. They're really not that major, but we think that they're going to be very beneficial in the ultimate operation of the plant. GSA has been working on the pipeline and the meters, and if Glenn would like to come up and give or David would like to come up and give a brief update on that, I welcome them.
Welcome, Mr. Einsel.
Thank you. So on the water meters, we've been working with Brian Martinez to get address points and meter numbers for all of the meters, the various 3,400 that we're replacing. We've accumulated all that information, and we're in the process of preparing plans right now for that particular one. On the water rehab, there's 21 miles roughly of pipe that we're replacing. So right now we're in the survey process on that. And once we get a survey together, we'll start preparing the plans for those. Hope that was brief enough.
That was brief, thank you.
Any committee members have questions with Mr. Einsel before we dismiss him?
Um,
Mr. Joseph?
Just on the meters, that's the only thing. I mean, the capability, we're going for the 21st century capability on these meters.
Yeah, so right now we're assessing the cost on all of those. The specs are underway on that. We're looking at the drive-by also, but if for some reason the costs are prohibitive, we've put the collectors in for an alternate, hoping to get that cost. But if for some reason the bids come in high, we would have the meters that can do that later technology to collect and send all of the data back to Ascension Parish offices so they can receive that. So right now, it's sort of in flux depending on what the price comes in at. We have prices, but one of them is more expensive. So I'm concerned with the bids, what they would come in at. So I think how we would recommend doing it, and William and I haven't talked about this yet, but put the collectors in as an alternate. That way, if it comes in high, you at least have the meters that are capable of that 21st century technology.
Okay. So we all just talking about drive-by, 21st century, no person, people going out and reading.
No, sir. The meters that we would like to send the data straight to the water plant, those are the ones that we're hoping to get.
Right.
Now, my recommendation was the GSA lower their fees so we could get those meters, but they're hoping for a lower bid, so that didn't work out for me.
Perhaps
Understand.
Mr. Shahi would like to come up and pledge that lowering this evening? I guess not. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not actually on the agenda, the report, but I did want to tell you all about an event that we had last week. We had a meeting. We had USDA, Rural Water Association. We had the River Center Community College. We had a number of other user groups there. We had Tom Walton with the state. We had DHH. We had DEQ. And what we met on was starting a training program for water and wastewater certification, and possibly even moving that to a degree at the community college where they could get a 2-year technology degree in water or a 2-year technology degree in wastewater. There's a lot of excitement about that. We tasked a few people out to do some homework, and then we're going to come back and meet again. So I think this is a really good idea. They talked about, and this will give you somewhat of an indication of the challenge that we face at water plants in particular, is that there were 25% of all of the water certification people are due to retire in the next couple of years. But of that 25%, it's almost like 70% of the 3s and 4s, which is what it takes to run a water plant. So there's a real need for increased certification, and Ascension Parish is sort of taking a lead in trying to be on the forefront of working out some sort of educational process to help train the next generation of people to operate these plants. So that was I think that was a real good thing, and like I said, everybody's very excited, and I'll keep you updated as we move along.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Any more committee questions on the director's report? Looks like we don't have any. Mr. Daniel, we thank you again.
Oh, I didn't do Astroland. I apologize. Thank you, Susan. So we have taken over the billing in Astroland as it is going to be part of the Hillaryville-Darrow sewer system, and the Miss Mary, who formerly billed all of the people there, basically just run out of steam in doing it, and also she'd run out of bills. So we've taken it over. The plan is we're keeping, until we're actually connected to the new system, we're going to keep the current fee in place of $20. That's obviously probably below the cost of actually administering this, but I think that's the appropriate thing to do at this point. Once we're connected up, then we're going to go to our fee, our regular fee, and we can talk about the fees here because I have some fees here later on in the presentation. But that's the plan. We're also working with Baton Rouge Water. There's quite a few balances out there. People just have not paid for years and years and years. And we sent them all a letter, and Councilman Turner may be getting some phone calls, but we said if you don't pay your bill in the future, we're going to turn your water off. So I think that's fair, and they're getting a good deal. And we're only, we're not trying to collect all the balances, but we are going back from the time that we bought the property. We're going to try to collect those balances from them. So that goes back to September 2017. So there's some people that owe us like $400 or something. So we'll see how that goes in collections.
So these letters, Mr. Daniel, they went out recently, certified mail or just
They went out
snail
about a
mail?
week ago, not certified.
Just snail mail?
Just, yes, sir.
Okay, well, we'll be looking forward to seeing what kind of response you get. Mr. Joseph?
Mr. Daniel, you say we will be collecting.
Ascension Parish.
Yeah, where would they be collecting?
Well, they're sending it to EUA, I think. ACUD number 2.
Okay, I mean, I know this system well, so where ACUD number 2 is collecting those sewage bill, where they will be collecting them at?
You mean where are they going to mail the payments to?
Yeah,
Finance Department.
That's in your letter, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We had
Yeah.
an address in the letter.
okay, all right.
But we didn't just tell them to send their money in.
Once again, I'm just curious, I just want to make sure. I mean,
Yes, sir.
I don't want to get no phone calls.
I can
I'm trying to avoid getting phone calls. That's why I'm trying to make sure.
I can understand the high level of oversight you must feel towards me, Councilman Joseph.
Okay, you can straighten
Madam
that out.
Secretary, can we strike that from the minutes? Any other questions about the director's report?
If we're talking about billing, what about is it 42 that we had the collections there that we didn't collect?
No, it was 73.
73.
Well, yeah, it was Hollows of Dutchtown, and we are working on, we've sent letters out, and we just sent a follow-up letter out saying some of them paid, not all of them paid, so we sent a follow-up letter out to collect those as well.
Okay.
And those payments, this is kind of ancient history, was just at the time in which they were first notified, or were they made to go back for a full year?
Most of them were less than a year to begin with. I think probably.
Depending on when they would have bought their home.
Right. Almost all of them were less than a year, and so it's the law, it's the Constitution. We can't give away services,
Right.
so we have to at least try and collect that money from the time that we were providing the service.
Well, I only asked like Mr. Joseph, because that's my district, in case I start getting calls, but I'm here to report tonight, very happy that I haven't gotten any so far.
Well,
And I hope all of them, if y'all listen out there, like he just said, it's your responsibility to do this, and if not, it's against the law. And my guess is that, do we have the ability to shut water off like we do with the Ashland
yes,
folks?
we do.
Okay. So be forewarned, District 4 residents. OJ's got a follow-up.
Sir.
Mr. Daniel.
Yes, sir.
How many customer are we talking about on 73 and 42? I mean, I remember the number being low, so I'm just, if you have some,
I'm really not, I really don't have that information with me, Councilman, but I will get it and I will get back to you and let you know.
okay.
If I said something, I might be close, but I might not.
Well, I mean, the last time we had was between 46 and 77.
Yeah, but that whole subdivision is now filling up, so I think we have quite a few more than that. But I'll get you the exact number here
Yeah,
shortly.
because we just like to know how many people are
Yes, sir.
getting connected to 73 and 42.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John.
Terry, you're all right. Okay, moving right along, item number 7 is our regional wastewater treatment plant maps. Historically set this up for Mr. Daniel, still in the hot seat here this evening. This is what he showed us last time, but could only hold it up in the air, so it's in your packets now, and you can actually see it. You'll have council members' maps both for the regional wastewater treatment plant in north, as well as in South Ascension on the east bank.
And just
Mr.
keep in
Daniel.
mind, those are conceptual, and some of the plans on the south wastewater treatment plant are being designed right now. GSA is doing the Highway 22 from Riverton to the Hillaryville treatment plant, and then we'll be, as we firm things up a little bit on exactly how we're going to do the rest of it, I'll be coming to you with that in the very near future. But it's conceptual, and then the 73 is conceptual, but I think it gives you a really good idea of two things. One, how easy it's going to be to get to the river, where we have the opportunity on several different fronts to acquire property to build a treatment plant. And it's really good property because it's not near any subdivisions or residences or anything like that. So it's the perfect spot. And also, the second thing is you can see exactly, the huge number of customers that surround that particular route, which would make it, very economical.
Right. I'll begin. I start with the north system. It obviously affects me the most. Fellow council members, take a look in there, and you're going to see that Mr. Daniel has provided us with sheets 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7 in detail, one being just an overlay of how those sheets lay out, if you will. I think it's important to mention, I probably can't see this, but every time you see the red lines, that is the geographical area adjacent to and extending sometimes pretty far out from the blue line. When you see that, that's the pipeline that is currently in the ground that the parish has already paid for, beginning in that first sheet at Highway 42. And then you'll notice that it transitions to sort of a green line. That's because that pipe's not there yet, Airline Highway. And then it picks up back in blue on Highway 73 to the point where it crosses over between Terry and my district at the interstate, of course, where pipes would have to be laid again, going all the way to the Mississippi River. So we're back into the other color again. But not to overemphasize what Mr. Daniel just said, you can see as it traverses north to south, quite a few subdivisions are envisioned in this, and it ought to reduce quite a good number of customers, and that's a good segue. We are still, Mr. Daniel, having engineering firms look into. We talked last time. We have dated numbers back from GSA at around 2014-15. The last time we considered modified P16. But we're updating those with
We are counting.
Hartman or whoever's doing that.
Yes, we are counting those customers.
Okay. And so that'll be something in future reports you'll be bringing forward to this committee.
Correct.
All right. I'm not going to make any comments on the other one, but maybe someone else would, or even this system. Mr. Dawson.
So I guess do we know the number of potential customers for these systems?
Well, there's about 3,500 on the south system, and we're still counting on the north system. I think 3,400. Is that?
3,400 in Dower, Hillaryville.
Well,
Army
all
Corps.
the way down 44 to 22 to Hillaryville, there's about 3,400.
Yeah.
Didn't
I
you-
did look at that, like Pelican Point, it showed 1,400 houses in there. I don't know
Right,
where that came
and
from.
then of course
but
Riverton is going to add
I
800.
my last count was around 800.
Yeah.
I don't know where the 1,400, I guess that's maybe potential, but anyway, I'm excited about this, tell you the truth, so, I guess a couple of questions, like, number one is when is it gonna have some stuff in the pipes and it's and we're gonna be shooting something to the river?
So the CDBG project that we talked about, and we get the bids in May, we have to get that started because that's part of the system. And then, of course, GSA is designing the force main from Riverton over to the plant. So I don't know. I think we're still probably over a year away from all of that. So I mean, I think the construction on the CDBG project is 12, 14 months or something. So
So if you talk about the P16, you know, which one of those do you think we could have in service? Well, obviously the Darrell Hillary build, because they have a plant there and have a discharge built.
Right, and, you know, you have kind of tasked me not only with, I mean, I can tell you about going down 73, 42, Airline Highway to a plant today, but you said, no, I want to see a plan for everything. So that's kind of where we are. I want to bring you a plan for everything. So that's where we are. That's
So I kind of would, if you don't mind, William, just for everybody's edification, including myself, if you just talk about the major steps. So, I mean, we have this great layout here, and we're talking about a north plant, the south plant. So, you know, right away, and, you know, all other people to understand the complications of this, maybe.
Well, so, yeah, the steps. Okay. First of all, we have to agree on a plan. And that may be one of the most difficult steps of all.
Mr. Daniel, would you please say that again and louder with vigor?
We have to agree on
Gotta
a
have a
plan.
plan.
And that may not be, you know, I can promise you this. There'll be aspects of the plan that everybody likes, and there'll be aspects of the plan that different people don't like.
Thank you.
But no plan is gonna be perfect for everyone. But I think what we can bring is a plan that everybody can vote for and get it started. Okay, once we have the plan, then of course we have to be able to pay for it. So we've got to work that particular problem out as well. But we've got a number of ideas and leads that we're chasing on that as well. Then once you have all of that and you have the money in the bank, well, then you can bid out the design, and then you can bid out the construction, and then you have to construct it, and then you have to convert existing wastewater treatment plants, to pump stations to go to your line. So it's a complicated process. And in the middle of all of this, we're rewriting the sewer ordinances so that we can kind of do it in an orderly fashion. We want everybody to understand when this happens, what's going to happen to them. So, you know, there's the ordinances are, we have ordinances. They're a little jumbled up. We're going to go with repeal and replace. You've heard that on healthcare. We're now going to try it on sewer. It's not going to be as controversial, I don't believe.
Well, we don't know yet.
I can
Well,
promise
we'd have
you
to pass it before we can read it, so.
the ordinances for repeal and replace of sewer won't nearly be as controversial as healthcare. I can assure you of
Thank
that. That's the one thing I can be positive about.
I've been here a long time with sewage.
But so all of that, you know, is the gumbo of getting the sewer together.
Right-of-ways and that type of thing.
Well,
Those are just
obviously,
kind of little things that come
and
along.
look, you know, that we obviously the backbone is down 73, and we're fortunate that, you know, that's the state. But it's also, if we're acquiring right-of-ways to put sewer, it may be a prime opportunity to widen 73 as well. So, I mean, it could be very beneficial on a number of different fronts. So we're trying to work out all of those details, and it's, you know, there's a lot of balls in the air, but we'll keep them up there for a while.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and to address and amplify something Bill said, Mr. Daniel, I believe it was Mr. Elzey with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that said that in the South System that you asked about, Bill, their count was 3,566 rooftops. They actually put that in writing, but they charged us with being sure that we get our own count with our engineers, which we're doing, as we said.
Kind of 3,500 existing in that area.
Rooftops.
Well,
3,566 is the number I
I think the
read.
3,500 also includes some development
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
So,
And then, of course, they were going to design a system that would have that plus 20%, which worked out to be 390,000 trains, I believe. What I'd like you to do before we recognize my colleague, Mr. Joseph, and we'll just go down the line, when you talk about the ordinances, which to me is the key thing in this gumbo or soup you mentioned. Could you tell the committee a little bit about what your plans are and how we might actually incentivize? Because we've been down this road, this committee, 4 or 5 times in the past 4 or 5 plus years. There are a lot of people with their modads, even other people, well, those specifically, because they're not paying a bill, they're just flushing their toilet and going about their merry way, it's all fine. But we know pretty much for a fact, a large proportion of those, we've even talked numbers behind the scenes, are violators, just like some of the package plant folks are as well.
Well-
So to get them to swallow the fact that we really are serious about, and we're going to have sewer, could you maybe tell the committee a little bit preliminarily on how we would incentivize the citizens to want to do this as opposed to embrace and continue their old system?
So there are, according to the Louisiana Department of Health, 17,000 aerobic treatment units in Ascension Parish.
17,000.
And if there's 17,000 aerobic treatment units, I'm guessing that there's almost an equal number of old septic systems as well. So that's a pretty large number of single-family residential type of sewer treatment, and which most of those people are 99.99% are paying zero today. So even if you came up with a relatively reasonable rate, or a very reasonable rate, it would be way more than they're paying today. So I think, and so, one thing about those single-family residential treatment plants, if you don't maintain them, if you don't do maintenance on them, they don't work. And they have aerators, and the aerators over time, they diminish the amount of air that they can put into the system, and they're designed on a certain amount of air. So they become less effective, and some people just unplug the aerators altogether. So we're looking at some programs that some other municipalities and counties around the country are doing. And one of the programs which we think has a lot of promise is they require monthly maintenance of those units. And so, the government doesn't get involved going out and inspecting them. What we do is we require the homeowner to hire a maintenance company to maintain that unit. And what we do is we just monitor that the maintenance companies are doing their job. And there's some very inventive ways to do it. Basically, you can install kind of a SCADA-like piece of equipment on the single-family residential unit, and you know when the inspector's been there, and you know that he's taken care of it, and you know that he's maintained it. And if he doesn't, you can fine him, not the homeowner. So if we get those systems, there's big benefits, and I think we talked about this last time, of making those treatment units work. One of the benefits is, obviously, you don't put sewer into the ditch. You don't put untreated effluent into the ditch because the sewer system isn't working well. And when you put untreated sewer, then basically what you do is you encourage vegetation, you plug up all our ditches, and Ron and I are in front of you explaining why we have to dig so many ditches in the parish. You also put solids out as well when they don't work as well. So that's a big part of the ditch digging, as we discussed the other night. And getting those functioning, reduces a major health risk to the parish, and reduces, the amount of drainage work that we need to do. So there's a lot of positive benefits. And, the maintenance people, it would be a market-based type rate that they would charge to go out there and do it. And I would think it would be $20 or $30 a month. So that $20 or $30 a month is something they haven't been paying. And so now, the cost of sewer is real to them, because they're basically, by not paying anything, they're contributing to the sewer problem in the parish, but they're not helping pay for it. And I think that it's important that everybody pay their fair share in helping, the parish get sewer, and helping. Really, this is not the kind of parish that we want to be is a parish that puts sewer in the ditch. I mean, it's not who we are here. I mean, I've been working here for 18 months, and I got a great appreciation for the people of this parish, and I think that they want, obviously, they want, to live a high quality of life and have a high standard of living, and you can't have a high standard of living putting sewer in a ditch. So I think that this is an important step forward and prepares people for ultimately having, a regional sewer system in the parish. So that's one of the things we're looking at. Some other things is we're going to require the developers to camera their pipe. That's best technology, to make sure that the pipe is sloped at the proper angles and doesn't have humps. And we're going to inspect the connections when people when they make connections to the sewer lines. So all of that is going to be in the new regulations and some other things as well that we're going to be working on too.
Two quick things. I think this is why it incentivizes, but as you said now, and I'm glad you put it on the table, it's not just the MODADs, it's the septic tank folks, and it's also the package plant vendor companies that do business in our parish through franchises. Summarily, the numbers I find are really robust for MODADs and septic tank people, and I do agree if they start paying for periodic inspections / certifications a la Harris County, Texas model, whatever we put into our sewer ordinance, there's no doubt that they're going to get used to making that monthly payment, and albeit maybe a whole lot less than they're going to have to pay eventually for modern tertiary sewer. Let's say it's $25, $30, whatever. It's a lot easier for me to sell, certainly to my constituents, no bill to the next step. Plus, you didn't say it, but now they don't have to maintain it. They don't have to worry about the pump that went out. They don't have to worry about having the honey wagon. I just did this no more than a month or two ago. Had a service come out and pump it out, which is actually, I think, is it correct, Glenn? That's actually mandated in law anyway. I don't think our people are doing that. My guess is, and no one can give me this number, I've asked Mr. Shaheen, I've asked Mr. Daniel about it, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably out of those 17,000 that he mentioned, I'm going to say 14, 15,000 of them may be violators. So this just has to stop. It's time now to have sewer. We need to fix it. And I'm really glad that we also throw in the developers in there, and let's incentivize them by cameraing, as you said, their pipes, inspecting their connections, et cetera. But anyway, I'll yield to Mr. Lawligan next.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. I'm looking at some of the maps, the red lines on there, the extent of the sewage coverage, I guess you'd say. I guess two questions on that. Is that drawn in stone, and how is that devised?
Oh, no, that drawing is not in stone.
Okay, I thought I heard you say that. I just want to make sure.
No, that drawing, this is conceptual, and what we were trying to do was just sort of come up with a number of customers that we could get to pretty easily. So that may change as we develop the actual sewer plans, but you have to start somewhere. So we said, okay, which customers can we kind of reach out and grab pretty easily and get into the system?
Okay. I just saw some neighborhoods that seemed, part of them were just cut in half, missing 90, 80 houses here and there. But
no,
understandable.
That problem, I mean, a lot of that was just, okay, we're going to go out a half mile, we're going to go out a mile, see what we can get.
I'm not really complaining. I was just curious as to how it was. That's really the only question I have right now, and I think we do have some issues with improper maintenance and putting effluents into, ditches. It's just not a safe thing to do. So we do need, just the individual citizens. We have to make sure they're maintaining things. I know I get a lot of calls from people that are being serviced by these companies, Ascension Wastewater, whomever. Loud pumps, smells, poor maintenance. I mean, it's just a constant burden on us.
Well, that is another area that I think we're going to focus on, these package plants. And we touched on it a little bit at the Finance Committee. We want to upgrade the package plants. And look, they're a temporary step, but they're something that we got to do. But we want to upgrade the package plants and make sure that they're working. That's why we wanted to have CSRS help us design some treatment plants that we really thought would work, that we could bid out, and then we could start putting in the neighborhoods that we're going to maintain. But, and there's another item on the agenda that we'll be talking about, stormwater. All of that, all of these package plants contribute to the stormwater problems that we have in the parish as well. Once we get our sewer system sort of announced, the north and south sewer systems, that are moving to the planning stage, I think we want to lower the discharge limits on a lot of these package plants. We want to require them to be in the same, have achievable. I mean, we don't want to make them. We don't make it impossible, but we want to make sure that these package plants are, putting out an effluent that even though it's not desirable to put in the ditch, is safe to put in the ditch. So we'll probably be looking at lowering the discharge requirements for those, and maybe bacteriological requirements as well, making sure that there's no E. coli that's being generated by these plants. So all of that is on the drawing board, and all of that is a real possibility in the near future. It's just a big project, and we're wrapping our arms around it, but we are definitely moving forward with it.
I mean, it's a tremendous burden on us. When I say us, people of Ascension, I know I have friends in Jefferson Crossing, and it's just a constant. It's a smell, it's a sound. It'll keep you up at night, and they come in, they fix it, and it's broken 2 weeks later.
Look, this is. I mean, people may not like sewer fees, but when we have a regional sewer system in, it's going to increase the property value of everybody here. I think, and look, you want to talk about traffic issues? You can't widen your roads without sewer in the pipe.
Correct.
And pipe in the ground. So this is going to, push us forward in a number of different areas, and it's only positive from here out.
Well, Transportation Committee's willing, and we are working with y'all on your job and working with this right-of-way purchase and planning for the future.
Right. We need to, and Mr. Enlow and I and Jeff Burst have discussed this numerous times. We're looking for places where we can buy more right-of-way so that we can put the sewer in without having to go back and buy additional right-of-way. So that is all part of the process.
Yeah, y'all are doing a good job on that, saving those soft costs for us. Thank you.
I'm just learning.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. We'll conclude, and before we go to the next item, and say this. Also in these ordinances we're talking about, I think the committee needs to be apprised, we're going to be requiring location of these package plants because you're not going to stop development of subdivisions while we're doing this. So we're going to put them at a spot or in such a place by law to where they can hook into one of our major tail lines going down 73 or 42. And on that's a good segue to what Aaron was just talking about. People need to understand, we have probably close to $20 million of pipes in the ground that goes nowhere. And that is on 42, mostly in Aaron's district, and on 73, mostly in my district. And so the sooner we connect that, I remember the old days, they kept talking about bridges that go to nowhere and funding and stuff. And as you said, we're required. So I don't think we're going to be widening 63 anytime soon. But nonetheless, it seems with right-of-way acquisition, from what I've been told and everything else, it'd be pretty easy to just make that connection. But then, of course, we have to, as you saw in these maps, which is the whole subject here, we have to still go south on 73. So,
well, 61, there's so much right-of-way and highway.
Yeah, right. Shouldn't be any problem at all.
Shouldn't be any problem at all.
And let me just say this, in the spirit of, you guys corrected me recently for the use of the word effluent, and I want to talk to my committee members about that. When you come out of Dr. Sadley's house, I'll just use myself as the whipping boy, and you go into the ditch on Perkins Road out of my Modad, that's really not effluent. That's just, what would you call it, Glenn? That's Modad treated, or is it?
Gray water.
Yeah.
Would it pass anything?
Well, I
by
would,
DEQ standards?
I'll be happy to come out and test your facility, Councilman, but if
And
it's
send me a
not
bill for
passing,
it?
I'm going to be required to report you.
There you go. And so the point I'm making here is that, effluent's coming out of that tertiary plant. We're looking about building there in with the donated land in the north system. So it goes right in the Mississippi River, and that's what the DEQ wants.
Right, and
That's serious sewer compared to what we have right now, which is a patchwork of craziness. I'll probably be quoted on that tomorrow.
that is a very apt analysis,
So,
patchwork of craziness.
so gentlemen and ladies, let's quit using effluent, because the other thing that does, by the way, when you talk about incentivizing the people that we're going to have to sell the concept to, they need to understand, like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, while you're paying no bill, you are dirty birds. Probably be quoted on that as well. I'm a
Well-
violator, you're a violator, so we are. So let's just fix this now, once and for all. Let's not kick it down the road. Let's not let the price get even bigger. We all know the numbers, back in the early 1990s, I believe it was, we could have done this for a couple $100 million. We now know we went through the modified P16, the Ascension Environmental Triple P, it was close to $1 billion. Can you imagine what it's going to be 10, 15 years from now? Another 50,000 something everybody keeps saying is coming here. What's it going to be, $2 billion?
Well, and I can tell you this, if we don't get sewer, and I know you heard this over and over again, EPA is eventually going to force you to get sewer. And when you're forced to get sewer by EPA, you go under a consent decree. And that's going to run up your cost 2 to 3 times what it would if you just put in a system yourself. And along with EPA coming down here is also going to be the Justice Department. And that just creates problems that we do not want to have. And so, putting sewer in today, while it may be painful, is much less painful than the alternative.
And one final thing, since we talked also financing and the steps for Ms. Dawson of how the process would go by. We always have known that we got that SRF loan sitting out there, 60 million, 0.95%, right? We can ill afford to lose that. If we need to use some of that for the Hillary project, whatever you're going to be bringing to us, even some of it for the north and get started. I like a crawl, walk, run strategy and not, try to bite off more than we can choose right now. But I'm going to ask my fellow councilmen, if it doesn't come out of this committee as a recommendation to the full council, it will die here again, and we'll have the problem that I just spoke of, kicking this can down the road. And I haven't said it yet tonight, but I'll say it one more time, risking the health of our people, children who tomorrow could play in our ditches and contract polio. We're going to move along now.
Well, that was, remember, the first step is we all got to agree on a plan.
Right, and that's what I'm going to do. You can bet this, Mr. Daniel, I'm going to be the cheerleader for that, and hopefully I can herd all my cats up here, and that's an affectionate use of that terminology, and get everybody on the same page and see if we at least get it out of the committee and get it to a plan to the full council and see if we can go forward. So that's the maps, item 7, unless, Bill, do you want another round? No one? Okay. Number 8 is the PUA/ACUD number 1, sewer and water rates. And I know that's something that OJ and you have been working on, so we'll let you.
So let's
make
talk
some
about
remarks.
water first.
Yes.
Okay. So we proposed these rates, and we kind of all agreed on what we wanted them to ultimately look like. But I wanted, one of my goals was to phase in the rates so that people who had, because we're not changing the minimum very much. So if you use a small amount of water, but you have a leak and it's causing more water to be used, I wanted people to have the opportunity to be able to go in, get their pipes, tighten up their system, and make repairs so that their water usage wasn't up. So what I've done is I've instituted for the residents only, I've instituted the new monthly rate, which is $18.60. And then the old rate would stay in effect of $5.36 per 1,000 gallons. But then on January 1st, the per 1,000 gallon rate would go to the new $6.84 rate. So they basically would have 7 months to make any repairs that they needed to get their system in order. So this is the rates that I recommend that we turn into an ordinance and pass for the EUA water rates.
So do you need that this evening in the form of a motion to vote to the full council, Mr. Daniel?
I would certainly like that, yes, sir, Mr.
Well, we'll see
Chairman.
what happens. Further discussion.
I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I would like it.
Further discussion. Mr. Joseph, you still have the floor.
I don't have the, no, I have, no problem with the rate. It's just that, on your effective date on, January 1st on the residential, it should be 2020, correct?
Oh, yes, sir, that's
All
correct.
right.
Typo, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just making sure. My other concern is, William, we have talked about those public meetings, and, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I just want them to be well-informed if we go and have some public meeting explaining what's gonna happen to them, what's gonna happen to the rates and the time they find, just informing them. I'm good with that.
I'm all ready for the public meetings,
Huh?
Councilman.
January 1, effective.
The second one on residential.
You put the public meetings together, and I'll go there and defend the rate increases.
By day.
Hey, William, once again, I'm getting charged to do stuff around here. I think it's supposed to be the opposite way, huh? I mean, no offense, but
I'll be happy to do it.
I'll
but
make sure I talk to
the
them.
last time-
I'll make sure I speak to them parish president, and then we'll get that done.
Mr. Joseph,
When
two
we talked
things.
in-
That's why you vice chair, and that's why you make the big bucks.
When we talked in private, you volunteered to do it, so I
Oh,
thought,
I told you I'd be glad to assist you. I never volunteered. I've been in the service, you know. I figure
that's my story, Councilman. I'm sticking to it. I'll be happy to set them up.
All right.
I really thought you were going to do it, but I'll be happy to set them up.
I
Mr.
think we
Lawler.
can get- I think we can get someone in the Downsonville office to help us with that, huh?
We done, OJ?
No, nothing.
Mr. Lawler, you passed. Ms. Terry?
I'm good.
Round two. No? Well, the chair. You want one? Sorry, I missed you. We kind of went that way, but Bill Dawson.
No, just for kind of everybody's information, to talk about where we currently are.
Okay, so, I'm a little
Do you have
embarrassed
that?
because I left the where we currently are. Do you have that, Glenn, with you? No help.
How about Nanette, you think she
That's
has
why I
it?
didn't give you a turn right there.
Let's see, where are we currently?
Well, how about an approximate of where
Well, I
we
think
are
we're at
currently?
about 1650 on the monthly rate, and we are at $5.36 on the,
17, I'm sorry. I didn't know that's what you mean, 17. It's 17.
we're at 17 now? Okay.
1747 or 1750.
Is that ACD number one or
No.
PUA? PUA? Okay,
PUA.
so we're going up about $1 on the monthly charge, and like I said, I'm holding the per 1,000-gallon charge the same until January 1st, and so it would go from 536 to 684. I do have, I've got the, some of the water rates, some of the user rates, I can show you in that we're going to talk about in the sewer here in a minute. I have some of those consumption rates with me.
So I
but
also understood that Peoples, when we bought them, they had a,
60-something% rate increase scheduled.
there you go, so people need to understand that.
Right, and we're going up about 30%.
Well, they were looking at, if they were at 17,
They were going
looking
up
at-
60%, and
They were gonna be 30 plus,
right, and they weren't making any modifications to the system.
yeah. And so I guess the other thing I want maybe everybody to understand that this takes care of once we get this instituted, this takes care of satisfying the debt on the 17, I keep, the number.
Absolutely, that
Yeah.
is that takes care of the
Replacement of all the
USDA
pipes.
loan.
Yeah.
It will pay, not only will it pay back the USDA loan, but it will set aside money for emergencies, and it will also set aside money for equipment replacement. So it's the complete package. But I did want to, I kind of, after our discussion last time about the rates, I have in here, and this has not been vetted by legal. I sent it to O'Neill today. He hadn't had a complete chance to look at it. So it's more the philosophy of what I was thinking. to have y'all look at. And basically what it says is that we'll assess a water service charge on all premises with a meter. And those service charges will be in effect unless remained by the council. And parish council shall, and like I said, this is, O'Neill already told me I can't do it by resolution, I have to do it by ordinance. But sufficient to provide payment of any and all indebtedness, to provide for the expense of administration, operation, maintenance, et cetera, and you will revise those to meet the system's expenses, ensure all the user classes pay their proportionate share, and that if you do change them, you'll publish it in the paper 30 days before the actual rates take effect. And then there's a Part B that I think Councilman Johnson was interested in, and it says, provided, however, that the division infrastructure manager or the utilities manager, whoever we decide it should be, shall review the water service charges as necessary on an annual basis and may recommend an increase based upon the CPI. And if he does do that, he would write a letter to the council, and the council would have 30 days to disagree with that assessment. And if they didn't, then he could only increase it by the rate of the CPI of the southern, southwest Baton Rouge area. So that's kind of what I was thinking that we could do. It makes sure that not only do we have a mechanism for increasing it if the rates increase. Now, if the CPI goes up, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to increase the rates. That's what I was struggling with by using the CPI. And so I was looking around hundreds of different municipalities and the way they treated it. And I liked, I don't even remember where I got this, but I kind of liked this concept to where we could look at it if we thought that a rate increase was necessary to meet this, provide for the payment of all indebtedness and expense of administration, operations, maintenance, et cetera, then we could increase it by the CPI. But yet the council still had the final authority in rejecting that increase. But if the utility manager or the division infrastructure manager made the recommendation and everybody agreed with it, then it would go up no more than the CPI. So that's what I'm trying to get O'Neill to write into an ordinance, unless y'all have objections to it.
Well, I may not have questions about it going there automatically. We'd have to look at that charter and make sure that,
Well, that's, O'Neill mentioned that as well, so we're looking at
Yeah.
that too.
But we can't vote on that tonight anyway.
No, this is,
You have
I
to
just
bring it
wanted to
back
bring
to
this
us,
up
right.
as conceptual and sort of get your thoughts on it. I looked at the pros and cons, first of all, of using the CPI. And, there are a lot of pros, and Councilman Johnson pointed those out last time. But there are some cons as well to using the CPI. So I was trying to find a system that kind of took the best of both worlds.
of course, just my view on this is there should be some language added in there saying you'll review the operating cost. It's not just the CPI, but
Absolutely.
what is the operating cost over the previous year?
Well, yeah, it says the division shall review the
Maybe
water
it-
service charges, and I can put that language that up at the top, indebtedness, administration, operation, and maintenance is other things that he would have to review as well. So this is my first stab at it,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
but that's an excellent
Well, you
suggestion.
do have, Mr. Daniels, your service charges shall be revised by the council as necessary to meet the system's expenses, so.
Right, so I would duplicate that language and require the utility manager, division infrastructure manager to review those as
Right.
well.
And he had the choice to base it, propose what percentage it is. If it's lower than the CPI, then he'll propose that based on that. And if it's higher, he'll bring the
Right.
CPI and say this the normal rate, the CPI.
But I mean, the CPI may go up, but the operating cost of the system may not go up
Right.
at all
That's
either,
right.
so.
Right.
And I don't want to get into,
I think it's a good point to review, and we reviewed the operating. It's a good thing to review your operating costs, review your income, review what the inflation is, and, based on that, make a decision whether you recommend an increase or not. I would just, my recollection of the charter is that fees require 2/3. Well, we'll see what Mr. Barrington says.
so, in the legislature, we used to grapple with this question, and I don't know about the charter, but if you authorized, if two-thirds authorized an increase in the law, then it could take effect. I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
because you guys in the legislature made those laws that we have to adhere to, and you don't.
Those laws were made before I got there. The bad laws were made before I got there, Mr. Dawson.
Exactly.
While we're on this subject and before we open up for a motion on the actual rates, I notice under B, you have the Division Infrastructure Manager.
Right, and that could be the utility manager.
I know, but that's right now currently you, right?
That is correct.
See, I know you as the Infrastructure Development Director, and I like IDD better than DIM because you're certainly not DIM, sir.
Well, that's nice of you to say, sir.
Well, I think
But
we
I
have
think
enough.
my actual title is the division, maybe it's the
is
Division
it?
Infrastructure Director, I'm not sure. Like I said, this is my first stab. I'll go back and look at my card and see what it says.
Okay, excellent. I just have to, Terry, please forgive me. I'll look in the flow chart to see. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion on the rates.
I just got one question.
Question,
to ask,
Mr.
if you don't
Mr.
mind,
Joseph.
Chair. Are this going to include, I see you say water meters, but is this going to include sewage too?
Well, I've got sewer to talk about next.
Okay. I just
This
want to
is
make sure.
just-
We're going to
this
do
is
a
ju-
rate structure. I want them to be
Right, and
similar. I
again,
guess.
this is, I wrote this for the water, but when we fix it, it will be for everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's over for us.
I'm good with that. I make the motion on the,
I second the motion.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Dawson, that we accept, it is in your package, gentlemen and lady, the rates published by, and proposed and suggested by Mr. Daniel. Any-
With the change in 2019.
Yeah, we're going to change
2020.
that, with the good catch, the 2019 date on effective to 2020. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. That motion carries. Yay. Congratulations, Mr. Daniel.
It's a
Not,
big
you
step.
still,
let's
So
see.
we're still, now I'd like to talk about the sewer, and I think
Sorry, yeah,
we handed out some sewer information.
Right.
um,
It's
to
not,
you.
it's not in Novus, but everybody's got a hard copy up here. Does anyone need one?
well,
Okay.
no, I see Bill one now. Bill
Huh?
didn't look at his back.
Are we good?
I think are those extra there, or right there, Susan?
I have it, thanks.
Okay. Sorry, so everybody's set.
Okay, so
Mr.
Mr.
Daniel.
Joseph may recognize this spreadsheet here, because he built it, and I have to point out that it had an error in one of the formulas.
Only one error.
Are you using that fuzzy?
Only
pen?
one error.
Only one?
Well, I mean, what
Mr.
was
Joseph
happening,
built
and it was kind of, and I didn't catch it
Been
at
holding
first.
out on me.
What was happening is if you use less water than the minimum, it was giving you a negative on your bill, because it was.
No, I fixed that. You just didn't get that.
Oh, I
copy.
didn't get that.
That's
Okay.
right. I fixed
Does that mean that the parish issues a check to the customer and says
Well,
thank you?
it just meant their bill was lower.
Yeah.
And I tried to get all this on one page, so that the type is a little small, but basically what we did, this is St. Jude area, and Mr. Joseph and Mr. Dawson and a number of other council members wanted us to actually look at the sewer rate as a function of water consumption. So that's what we did with this spreadsheet. And so what I did was, if you look at the very last page, that's sort of a summary of the top line, the sewer revenue, is a summary of what this is. So it brings in a total of $4,822. We pay $1,533 to the city of Donaldsonville, $2.40 per 1,000 gallons to process the sewer there. And the other expenses are what I think that the system would cost to operate over time. Those are monthly charges. They're all approximations, but I think they're pretty close of what the costs are there. And if you look under the depreciation, basically what that is ultimately replacing the equipment out there. So that's the cost over time. And of course, like the sewer jetter and the backhoe and the Kubota, that's shared by ACD number 2 as well, so that's kind of a low cost because it picks up the majority of that. But then there's the SCADA and then the pump station and the sewer lines. So I just want to I wanted to put some money in the bank for the ultimate replacement of those systems. Then there's the regular maintenance charges and then other telephone, fuel, parts and supplies, et cetera. And so actually what it shows is that we lose about $282 a month putting all of that in the bank. But like I said, it's an approximation. And if you take out the depreciation, then we're actually at $409 in the positive operating. So that's what I'm proposing is $23 of a flat fee up to 3,000 gallons, and that's a little more generous than the water. But like I said, I was trying to keep it to where we just paid for our expenses. And then $5 for each 1,000 gallons thereafter. And then on the commercial, $50 up to the first 2,000 gallons and $8 per gallon afterwards. If you look at the bottom of the second residential page, there's 13 people. Of the 89 people, we're currently charging $42.50. 13 people, based on their water usage, would be paying more than the $42.50. But the average bill would only be $31.68. So these are the rates that I would propose for ACD number 1 sewer system that we're operating.
This is the same. I got 2 copies of the same thing. Do you have a copy?
I got
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I got
I'm gonna trust you for 13. I'm not gonna look at that. We're gonna start this time with,
You can throw it.
we'll start again with Mr. OJ.
Wayne? Don't go too far away.
So any questions?
Yeah, Wayne, I have a problem with your commercial rate, but I also wanna, when you look at the sewage bill, are you adding in the $5 per customer we're collecting from St. James for using that, main force line? And how much they generate? That's one. I know you didn't look at it.
No, I didn't.
That's right.
I didn't even know it.
They're collecting it, okay?
Who's
Finance collecting it
$5
per trailer or apartment in, Sugar Land, they call it, St. James Sugar Land or something, I don't- Sugar Land? Sugar Hill.
3,000.
Okay? And
That's not going to make a whole lot of difference.
I'm looking at I ain't finished yet. Okay, I see all the expenses, and you have that pump for $500. That is the main pump that by the jail, correct?
No, that is not. That's the jail takes care of that in their budget. We have the pump station that we acquired from
St. Jude.
whoever was operating Density.
Yeah, St. Jude.
Density, yeah.
Okay.
It's-
So,
It's a relatively new, it's a brand new pump station.
okay. My thing is, my question is, the jailhouse use that system too, and they only paying for the processing with the city of Donaldsonville? I understand that, but they don't have no expense in this, maintaining this line too, in the future?
Well, no, I mean, it's our line, so they maintain the pump station that gets it over to our line.
We don't pay that electric bill?
Well, I think we pay the electric bill because we're required to pay for the,
But we maintain it too.
I'm told that they maintain it. We don't have a employee dedicated to maintaining it.
I mean, we just need to check on that to see exactly, because if that pump break, because I mean, our system, St. Jude's goes in that system.
That's what I'm saying.
No, they're not $500 pumps. that's $500 that I
For
would,
maintenance or whatever.
that I would
Upkeep.
collect a month over time to ultimately replace that pump.
So.
And then, I've got in there, about, I've got $500 a month for major repairs.
Yeah.
That we might have to make.
I mean, I understand your budget, and you're being very generous on this. I just want to make sure we're covering every base of what ACUD number one sewage gonna be responsible for. So, I mean, the jail, the big well we have behind the jail, the pump, that system, let's just verify who gonna be the responsibility for that maintenance and upkeep of
I
that.
did check, but I'll check again.
Okay. And, the only problem I have is the $8, for commercial. I think we need to just look at that and lower that. I mean, we have some more development coming down there, and you know, over time, it's gonna increase. I know, matter of fact, they got another couple other hotels interested in it, and some other business. So, I think that would help us out with that rate,
Okay,
you know?
Where you
So-
wanna go, $5 with that?
I'd rather stay with the $5 across the board and look how it work. I know these number projected, but, I mean, how much maintenance we've been putting on that area so far?
well, it's, you know, we got an old line that I don't know,
Maybe go up on the-
What old line? We just put that line in.
no, not the line that Density has in there to go to Donaldsonville. That was Density's line.
No,
We bought
from that well, from where they were at, where the pump is to pump into that well, that's a brand-new line. They never had a line going to that before.
Oh, they had the plant.
They had
They
a
had the
plant
plant,
there,
yeah,
and
that's
it was going in the,
You're right, you're right.
yeah, don't say old round. Phew, you
You're
scared.
No, it's not, it's, you're.
But, if we make that change, I'm, you know, I'm happy with that.
Okay,
Well, how about, that's gonna throw your, revenue down. Well, how about you go up to 55 on the flat rate and down to 8 on the per thousand, down to 5 on the per thousand?
well, I mean, there's two commercial, that makes a difference of $10 a month. I mean, I don't think it.
Oh, it's only 2.
Yeah, we
there's
only got two
There's
at the
only two
bottom.
commercial customers, so it doesn't, the flat rate doesn't really, it has very little effect on, but I'm okay with the 5, as long as we understand that, you know, if there's other development, then that'll take care of it. I did want to show you what I thought were the operating expenses and how you can easily get into trouble by not covering your expenses.
Doc, if you don't mind, I have one more question.
Help
Mr.
yourself,
Mr.
Bo.
Daniel, what about connection fee? I mean, I know you haven't brought that up, but I mean, to hook up to a sewage line,
The ordinance states that if you hook up to our line for a residential, it's $100 connection fee, and commercial properties is to be negotiated by utility manager or the infrastructure division director, manager, whatever he is.
okay.
The id, not the dim.
So we do have that, and we're gonna implement
Right.
that to
Yes, sir.
ACUD one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Mr. Lawler, you, Terry, all right. Mr. Dawson.
I mean, the people are gonna go, now, these are my people, so I'm glad about this, but they're gonna go from $42 a month to 23. Am I
well-
looking at that correctly?
No, so.
Flat rate.
So that's the flat rate, but then
Yeah.
if they go over the 3,000
use,
gallons,
right.
then they have an additional charge. And if you look over to the side, I have a 1, the very last column, I have a 1, a 0, 0. The zeros mean it's lower than the 4250, and the 1s mean it exceeds.
Oh, I see. So there's only about 3 that's above the 42.
No, there's 13.
Not above 4250.
Yeah, if you go all the way down, there's 13.
Well, I must be reading this wrong. I see. Yeah.
See
Well,
wherever there's a 1?
I only have like 1,
Oh,
2.
you're on the
Back page.
Yeah, 2 pages.
They did that to me to the agenda in the previous meeting, and I adjourned early.
It almost worked.
Give me mine back.
Okay.
Oh, he took yours, huh, Doc?
No, I was
I
giving it to
had-
him.
I
He
thought
actually
they
didn't-
were
he's
the
missing
same.
it. For some reason, it's not in there.
They're the same heading, but they're,
The data's different.
yeah. And if you look at the bottom, that's the bottom of page 2, the 3168,
Well, now
that's the
I'm
average rate.
confused. What's the difference in these two sheets?
Well, I deleted the names of all the people. They're the exact
You
same.
have, you have approximate 90 customers.
Yeah, there's 89 customers, so there's,
Oh, I see. These are two. This is sheet 1 and sheet 2.
Yes,
This
Yeah,
is continuation. That's why the columns don't
Oh,
appear second
okay.
time.
Sorry.
Cut the spreadsheet.
31, so right now, if we instituted that,
the average
the
bill
average bill would be 3166.
and it would go down by $11 a month. But like I said, some people would be about the same, some people are a lot lower, and there's 13 people that would actually pay more money.
Well, look, if you're happy with this, I'm all good for it.
I think it's fair, and if, I don't really have an objection to moving the overage on the commercial to $5, so.
Let me ask this, don't we have an ordinance that, we have it 40, that locks the rate at 4250?
It's
It's
only,
well, it's
It's not an ordinance, is it?
it's a resolution.
Yeah,
but
okay.
if
So
we
we don't
like,
have an issue we don't have to go do something else to make these less than 42 is what I'm,
Well, this needs to be in the form of an ordinance.
and this is for ACUD 1
ACD number
because,
1.
because we have water consumption, we control it, basically.
So this would be for the.
Yeah.
This would be for the
ACD
ACD number 1 utility district.
So,
Okay.
so in order to, Mr.
But the
Daniel,
water is
are you
big.
telling the chair that you need, in order to put this into law tonight, a motion and a vote?
Well,
Or a recommendation to the full
right,
council?
to the full council.
You can make on that.
And
Yeah.
then we would write the ordinance and once y'all approve it and go to the full council, we would actually write the ordinance for ACD number 1 and present it to the full council.
I move that we move this forward to write an ordinance and direct it to for introduction at the full council.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Dawson.
Moving the commercial rate to $5.
That's just
With
want to
that
make sure.
exception,
That's
yeah.
part of your ordinance, sir, and
With that,
seconded by Ms. Terry Casso. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion carries. Now maybe I can,
Now we're on item 3 of the agenda.
I think we're on, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, are we on number 9 now?
9.
Okay.
Correct.
So this is Thornton Musso and Bieleman, if I pronounced that correctly, their professional service contract.
Right,
Mr. Daniel.
TMB. And this contract is for the nitrification report that they do. And it also has in there that if we require any training, all the operators have to maintain their certifications. And so that they're willing at a charge in the contract to come out and help us get the certification. We don't have to use that part of the contract. The major part of the contract is for the nitrification report that they do quarterly.
Not to exceed 9,600, is that what I said?
Yes, sir.
I'll move, that we
Second.
move that forward.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Dawson and second by Mr. Joseph that we accept this professional service contract from Thornton Musso and Bieleman. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 10. Number 10 is the CK and Associates Professional Services Contract for Stormwater Management Program Plan. And I'll just say this as a setup. When I first saw the agenda for approval, I wondered why this is in front of us, but Mr. Daniel, in your remarks, you might want to say why it's not in drainage and why it's in
I'm
front of the
prepared to do
utilities.
that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
So this is a stormwater contract, and I have our new stormwater manager. I'd like to introduce Malcolm Say to the, Malcolm, come on up.
Would you come up, sir?
Malcolm retired from DOTD, and we hired him as our stormwater manager. He's actually a drainage engineer, but, so we're getting a really good deal here. He's done an excellent job to date. I'm still watching him, though.
Malcolm, welcome aboard, and thank you
Thank
for
you
coming
very
this
much,
evening.
and good evening to you, Councilman.
Does anybody have any
It's a pleasure
questions
to
for
be
Mr.
here.
Yeah, do you have anything you'd like to say, sir?
I would. I have taken on the responsibilities of the Stormwater Program Manager, and my general assessment of the state of the union, or in terms of waterways of the parish, is that we have a lot of work to do, and I really need to talk to these contractors. The main source of problems for the stormwater program is the construction and the destabilization of earth in the construction process. That's most of the problem. So I've been talking to the contractors and the developers and indicating to them that the importance of keeping our waterways free of sediment. And so far, I've talked to several of them, and they're more than happy to work with me and put out the best management practices. And so far, I've had nothing but good feelings from talking to our contractors and our developers.
How many inspections?
That's
have
good
you
to know.
done?
We've done more, maybe more than 15, 30. I'd say 40 to 50.
Well,
Great.
So
Come-
we hit the ground running, and of course, Malcolm spoke of the, the development, but there's also the discharge of treatment systems, there's illicit discharges. Stormwater is actually, fairly complicated, and when I first put it on the agenda, I actually thought, well, does this belong on utilities, or would it go to drainage? But it's actually, about 25% drainage, 25% transportation, 25% utilities, 25% planning and zoning. That's how we pay the stormwater manager. So I think utilities is a good place to put it. Malcolm reports to me, so I would prefer that we keep it on the utilities contract. It will ultimately go to the full council, and everybody will get a chance to opine on it. But so this contract is to help us with our with both DEQ and EPA. EPA made a visit down here, and they had some unflattering things to say about the state of our stormwater program. And we also are in the middle of responding to the new stormwater permit that the state has issued to us. We've made our first response to it, and we're in the middle. We need professional help in terms of that CK and Associates can provide to us. We don't want to get in trouble with stormwater. It's sort of the new thing that EPA is looking at, and Alex has been very helpful in steering us so far, and we'd like to continue. We initially got him on a requisition, but we need more help, so we're coming here in the form of a contract and asking for your approval to move forward. Be happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Sheffield is here as well.
Yeah, the chair will just say this, and then we'll go around as we always do. So if Mr. Dempsey Lambert of the A Drainage is unhappy with this, I'm just going to run behind your skirts, Mr. Daniel, as you explain the percentages. And then number two, if
We
this
can
comes
make him
out,
responsible for the discharges from the sewer
well,
system if he
sir, if
doesn't
it
like
comes out of committee tonight, I'm going to do the opposite, take all the credit and say, you see which committee is really getting things done. Mr. Dawson, I believe you had a comment?
I had a comment, William, that, we were reviewing this floodplain management ordinance that we have. I would invite our new stormwater manager to look at that, because as you're probably aware, detention and is closely related to stormwater and the discharge of that. So I do see that the city of Houston is, they actually, when they talk about the detention, the discharge of detention, they refer you to a stormwater manual, and rather than handling that in the floodplain management.
May Alex say a few words regarding
course.
stormwater management?
Of course.
Oh, thanks, council members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. We see this in a lot of municipalities, tying together the sanitary sewers where you have private discharges directly to receiving streams. The water bodies in this parish have impairments primarily related to dissolved oxygen and fecal coliform, both highly related to sanitary wastewater treatment systems that may or may not be operating as well as they can. And we have a very close tie-in with the drainage. It is a conveyance, and there's a lot of things that are happening right now that can be perceived as bad, but can be perceived as an opportunity. A lot of what you guys are talking about right now is communicating to the public why are we doing these things and why it's important. Ascension Parish is growing, and we want to be prepared for what we're growing into. And there, a lot of people might look at stormwater management as, okay, it's a water quality issue. It is, but it's also a flooding issue. Mm-hmm. When people are sending in leaves and pouring stuff into catch basins and ditches, there's a reason that culverts silt up with sediment. At the point that that is happening, you're losing drainage capacity that could result in flooding. And I think the citizens understand that. And I think HNTB, I've worked with Melissa Kennedy, and I think they've got some really good ideas and very competent, and we speak the same language. And Mac is really hitting the ground running with understanding what the parish has to do. And now it's a matter of, we've put together a roadmap, we have a plan, and now we're in the point of how do we implement this plan so that Ascension Parish is in compliance with DEQ and EPA. And I think we have a good plan of action, and I appreciate the support that William Daniels provided, and I look forward to working with you guys some more. So,
Thank you,
is there
sir.
any questions? Or
Yes,
anything?
I've got a question. So, just for the camera record, I think it's important. The contract services is not to exceed $49,500. We all know the magic of that number, and the scope is divided down into three tasks: task 1, 2, and 3, $7,500, $34,500, and $7,500 respectively. In 25 words or less, it was getting a little long in the evening this afternoon. Can you just quickly tell us each of the three tasks that?
Yeah.
I mean, I can read, but the
Yeah.
public has no idea, and
Yes. So if I could just quickly, okay, yeah. Prioritizing the plan activities. So we've been meeting with.
this is task 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The task 1, and it's really setting up frequencies of inspections, identifying how we're going to implement our stormwater management program plan, and it's really more a planning aspect of what we're doing. The second one, provide implementation support. There's a lot of things that have to happen with municipal operations, including developing compliance plans, stormwater management plans for individual facilities. Like if you've got material storage piles, you've got a fuel station, you're managing oils and chemicals, how to keep those from impacting stormwater. Also, making sure you have whatever required compliance plans are. There's a requirement that you, under federal oil spill regulations, that you have spill prevention plans to stop oil from getting into waterways where you have greater than 1,320 gallons of oil or fuel storage. That covers a lot of pump stations and emergency generators and things like that. And then a matter of what I guess revised stormwater management program plan. What's going to happen is we had to submit under the new stormwater permit a stormwater management program plan to DEQ in mid-January. And what we were really doing was we put our best guess of what that plan is, and now that we've really gone through and developed the roadmap, now we see, okay, what's possible, what we can do, what's feasible, and what we need more long-term time to develop. So we're going to have to revise our stormwater management program plan ultimately to have bite-sized pieces in there. But there's also a second shoe to drop. DEQ is reviewing what was submitted to them. and they are likely to come back with some response saying, we want you to change this, change that, and we'll also be making revisions to address any comments they provide us.
I thank you for that, sir. Okay, before I call for the pleasure of the committee, in a sidebar, Mr. Dawson has another question, not for you, sir, but if you yield the mic to Mr. Daniel.
So, William, just to get everything, out in the public here, I guess everybody's aware of this. You used to be an owner of CK or the owner or something like that. So just explain to us how long ago that transpired and that you don't have any.
Oh, since 2001, I sold my interest, so I haven't had an interest in them forever.
Okay.
And actually, I met Alex in the city of Baton Rouge, so I said, here's a good stormwater person, so that's how I've got him to Ascension Parish.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Dawson, and thank you for the response, Mr. Daniels. So what is the pleasure of the committee? Oh, excuse me, do we have more discussion?
Yeah,
Mr. Lawler.
Very briefly, welcome, Malcolm. I heard you mention something about reports, stormwater. Are reports made when you go do these investigations?
They are, and I was going to, actually, I wanted to come back up and say that we have been working with South Central Planning. We've got the stormwater almost ready to put on, to do electronic. So they've gotten all the forms and everything, so that's going to be the next thing that we do. So in the future, our inspectors will go out in the field with an iPad and do all the reports electronic, and they'll be in a database, and everybody will be able to look at them.
And I guess I got a lot of calls this week with two subdivisions that are being built in my area. One is Reese Lane, I forget the name of the other one. Just a tremendous amount of sediment flowing into the ditches. What is our, do we call you to go inspect that sort of thing? Who do we call?
Call, if you have an issue, of course, you can call the call center.
Yes.
And it'll go to Malcolm, or you can call me, and I'll be happy to pass the information on
I'll
Malcolm.
definitely go through the call center, but I just,
You can call me. Like I said, 24/7, I'm on duty, so.
sounds like a dare.
I do have you'd have, unless you do a private line, I'll know you're calling.
And you have my number too, so you'll call me right back.
Okay, so moving right along, Ms. Terry, you okay?
I'm good.
All right, what is the pleasure of the committee?
I move that we move that forward to the full council.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, it's been motioned by Mr. Dawson and a second by Mr. Lawler that we move this to this isn't going to finance, this is going to the full
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Came out.
council, to Terry's group, and it's a recommendation. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries as well. Okay, we're up to, and not to hurry you up in any way, Mr.
I'm going to
Daniel.
quicken the pace.
Well, I mean, we have
Mr.
three
Chairman.
people with iPads up here that are 10% battery life or less, so if the chair goes blank, I'm gonna be grabbing either OJ or Bill.
Mine's out.
Number 11 is ACUD number 1. It's our monthly, in this case, February revenue and consumption report. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you. Again, I bring you the water consumption for ACD number 1. And be happy to answer any questions about it.
We'll let the committee look for a minute and see. You got anything, Bill?
Numbers.
Aaron?
Okay.
Ms. Terry? Looks like there's no question for that, Mr. Daniel, so we thank you for those, for the report, for those numbers.
And then the next item is the PUA revenue and consumption for
Okay.
February.
February.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions about that as well.
I can pull that up in their
And
packets.
I'm trying to, I do want to say that Ms. Taylor and I are trying to get you the total profit and loss picture, but with a new system, the finance has advised us that they just can't get the numbers yet, but it's coming, so I will have that in the future. But I have a lot of respect for how much time and effort finance is putting to make this system work. I'm not really pushing them, but
We used to
they
have
sure-
these books with the red lines on the side.
Okay, no
Thank God we don't have
questions.
those anymore.
If we don't have any questions, we'll move on to number 13. That's the PUA monthly leak repairs report, also for the month of February. Mr. Daniel?
I got on Floyd, Councilman Joseph, told him you were dissatisfied with his report.
It's a little bit better here, 'cause
So I have a few more leaks this month. He said you might
When you
have.
say you got on him, you wanted to find more leaks, or?
Well, no, he just goes out and fixes some and he
I
doesn't.
got you.
But, you know, I would, I invite you to, just to take a look at this and,
So just for the public's benefit, we have in front of us 13 reported leaks, I guess.
right.
And the work orders there and where they were and what happened and,
And we're looking forward to getting that on the South Central system
right,
too.
how many hours were used and how many, what type of leak they detected and the labor for the crews and all that went out and addressed
And
the
the
problems.
and the estimated water loss.
Okay.
And that brings us right to the,
Number 14,
yes, sir, the
BUA water
water
audit for February.
report. And it's not as good as last month where I had a negative million gallons.
We already know that we already know you can defy the third law of thermodynamics and create matter or
Right.
destroy it at your will, Mr. Daniel.
But again, it's low, and I think that's the key. We keep it low. So we're accounting for almost all the water. And of course, again, we're only as good as the gauges and everything that we have out there. And that's all going to be improving over the next 18 months. So, but I do think with the management that we have out at the plant and the people in the field, you know, being very cognizant of trying to get us better data, I do think these numbers are within a certain reality.
Mr. Daniel? Mr. Joseph.
Yes, Mr. Daniel, and once again, with the comment you just made about the employees, look, I have to commend them. I mean, first, I used to get phone calls for every little leak, every little thing. I mean, the response time, the public relationship with the residents and everything, customer service, everything has improved, and, you know, I compliment them on that, you know, so.
They're very hardworking and dedicated. Floyd is an excellent, he's a great guy. The plant manager, Jason, and everybody that works for him, they're all top notch. We've hired a couple of other people. They passed their water, they passed their ones. I'm very optimistic about going into the future.
Okay, that brings us to our final report of the evening, and my favorite thing, we're getting close to adjournment. We have the Parish Utilities of Ascension Water Audit Report. This is year-to-date, not just February.
Right. So due to the large non-revenue water number in January, I'm still off. But again, this is just a year-to-date capitulation of the monthly report, and I think it speaks for itself. But I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I've been motioned by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Dawson, that we adjourn. This committee is adjourned.